The media's portrayal of Michael Jackson has always been mixed to say the least. All aspects of his life, from his image, surgeries, parenting skills, marriages, feuds, allegations of abuse, and even his death have become a spectacle. Michael Jackson died 14 years ago, and yet his life is still discussed in books, documentaries, and even this video. His identity became bigger than his entire career. But today on Music Rewind, we're looking at when Michael Jackson solidified his status as the king of pop and the legacy behind his 6th studio album, Thriller. In 1964, Michael Jackson became part of the Jackson 5 at the young age of 5 years old. This iconic band would go on to worldwide domination with hits such as I Want You Back, ABC, and I'll Be There. But Michael Jackson at the age of 11 was slowly becoming a sensation in his own right. In 1971, Michael Jackson would release his first solo single, Got to Be There, and would later release 4 solo albums with Motown Records. In 1975, the Jackson family moved from Motown to Epic Records. Michael Jackson would focus on the band for a few years, but also starred in the film The Wiz alongside Diana Ross. While the film underperformed, Michael Jackson would meet Quincy Jones, who produced the film's original score, and the two began working together on Michael's 5th album, Off the Wall. Off the Wall was a roaring success. The album was a drastic departure from the bubblegum music he was making, adapting a mature R&B sound with disco elements. Off the Wall sold over 20 million copies worldwide, producing 2 #1 hits, Don't Stop Till You Get Enough and Rock With You. While the album was a commercial success, Michael Jackson believed it underperformed because it didn't win Record of the Year at the Grammys. He hired his manager John Branca in 1979 and wanted to become the wealthiest and biggest star in show business. In the book The Magic and the Madness, celebrity biographer John Ronnie Taraborelli writes that Michael was in a state of depression during the time between Off the Wall and Thriller. In addition, Michael also felt undervalued in the music industry after Rolling Stone declined to run a cover story about him. In response, Michael said, "I've been told over and over that black people on the cover of magazines don't sell copies. Just wait. Someday these magazines are going to be begging me for an interview. Maybe I'll give them one, and maybe I won't." It would be these feelings of doubts, insecurity, and pain that would fuel him to create his next album. Michael wanted his next album to include nothing but killer songs. He wanted this entire album to sound like every single song could become a #1 multi-platinum selling hit. On April 14th, 1982, Michael Jackson began working on his 6th studio album. He continued working with Quincy Jones, and the album was given a budget of $750,000, which today would be around $2.3 million. Michael wrote 4 songs for the album: Wanna Be Starting Something, The Girl Is Mine, Beat It, and Billie Jean. Other songwriters for the album were Rob Temperton, who wrote Baby Be Mine, Thriller, and The Lady in My Life. Steve Porcaro and John Batiste co-wrote Human Nature, and James Ingram co-wrote PYT alongside Quincy Jones. On October 13th, 1982, the album's lead single, The Girl Is Mine with Paul McCartney, was released. The song is about Michael and Paul fighting over a girl, with Brandy and Monica releasing a response song, The Boy Is Mine, in 1998. However, the song wasn't initially received well, with many listeners disappointed, which created low expectations for the album. Many claimed that the song was made for white pop audiences. Critics called it a middle-of-the-road ballad, and that Michael Jackson working with Paul McCartney was Michael's worst idea since Ben, which is a song about a rat. But despite the feedback, the song performed very well. The song reached #2 on the Billboard Hot 100 and is certified platinum. On November 29th, 1982, Michael Jackson released his album Thriller. The album received rave reviews, with Rolling Stone saying, "Jackson's new attitude gives Thriller a deeper, if less visceral, emotional urgency than any of his previous work, and marks another watershed in the creative development of this talented performer." Commercially, Thriller was a chart staple in the 80s. The album spent 37 weeks at #1 on the Billboard 200, currently charting at number 49, and has spent 556 weeks on the chart, selling over 34 million copies in the US alone. Worldwide, at its peak, the album would sell over 1 million copies per week, and has officially sold over 70 million copies worldwide, becoming the best-selling album of all time. But the question remains as to why this album is held to such a high regard, and why has it sold over 70 million copies worldwide? One of the reasons is the quality of the album. While the lead single wasn't overwhelmingly liked, the rest of the album has killer production, especially for the early 80s. During this time, disco was reaching its sell-by date, and while Off the Wall had some great disco tracks, the public were rebelling against the genre, so this record stayed away from disco, adapting a more funky rock element, alongside Michael's polished R&B sound. So the quality of the album was highly likable, which moves us on to my second point, single material. While it does happen, it's hard to sell an album without a hit single, and this album not only had hit singles, but it has 7 iconic multi-platinum hit singles, including Diamond certified hits Billie Jean and Thriller. Thriller had 7 top 10 hits and 2 number ones, and the continuous release of hit singles propelled its success even further. But his follow-up album Bad had 5 number 1 hits and didn't sell 70 million records, only 45. Why is that? I hear you say. Again, it comes down to material. If we were to compare the quality of these songs, The Way You Make Me Feel, Dirty Diana, Bad, Man in the Mirror, and I Just Can't Stop Loving You, although some of these are classics, they don't compare to the quality found on Thriller. Even looking at their sales, the best-selling song on Bad is Man in the Mirror, 3 times platinum, compared to the song Thriller, which didn't even hit number 1 and is currently certified diamond. Thriller has more iconic songs that are much more celebrated, leading me to my third point, word of mouth and awards. At the time, Michael Jackson's Thriller was the most awarded album in Grammy's history with 8 awards in one night. Michael currently still holds the record for the most awarded artist in a single night, winning 7 awards for Thriller and 1 for E.T. the Extraterrestrial, winning Best Recording for Children. Thriller won Album of the Year and Best Pop Vocal Performance. Beat It won Record of the Year and Best Rock Vocal Performance, while Billie Jean won Best R&B Vocal Performance and Best Rhythm and Blues Songs, and Quincy Jones won Producer of the Year Non-Classical for his work on Thriller. While its reputation is now pretty low, earning a Grammy is still one of the biggest musical honors that anyone can have. Earning 8 Grammys in a single night will boost the artist and the album's profile, leading to further sales and recognition. The final reason I believe this album was very successful is because of its music videos. The album's music videos are so recognizable and adored. We all know the Thriller dance, and this entire era is now so synonymous with Halloween. In 2004, Nelson George wrote, "It's difficult to hear the songs from Thriller and disengage from their videos. For most of us, the images define the songs. In fact, it could be argued that Michael is the first artist in the MTV age to have an entire album so intimately connected in the public's imagination with his imagery." The music video for Thriller was an essential marketing tool. The video was so popular and loved that MTV would have to advertise every time the video was about to play. They would run the 14-minute video twice in an hour to keep up with high demands. The video made over $27 million in sales, which today would come up to $80 million. Thriller is not only a great album, but it's also what gave Michael Jackson the validation that not only he could achieve such heights, but a black artist can achieve such heights. Times Magazine wrote in 1984, "Michael Jackson is the biggest thing since the Beatles. He is the hottest single phenomenon since Elvis Presley. He just may be the most popular black singer ever." Michael Jackson was praised for paving the way for other African American artists such as Prince, Beyonce, and Janet Jackson. And despite its initial backlash, many have praised The Girl Is Mine for the exposure and normalization of interracial love. To sum up everything, Time Magazine summarized the chokehold this album had over the world by saying, "The pulse of America and much of the rest of the world moves irregularly, beating in time to the tough strut of Billie Jean, the asphalt aria of Beat It, and the supremely cool chills of Thriller."